Organizations such as the National American Suffrage Association continuously put pressure on the U.S. government in order to obtain the right to vote. On August 18, 1920, Congress ratified the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. However, this excluded African American women. The global impacts of women getting the right to vote are: it encouraged African American women to continue to fight for the right to vote, as well as individual freedoms. It produced new ideas about how lives of women were more than just cooking and cleaning. It inspired movements in other countries such as Chile and Brazil, and the wage gap narrowed between genders. However, what if women did not receive the right to vote in 1920? If women did not receive the right to vote, they would have little to no education because men considered women to be only good for taking care of the household. In addition, women would not be allowed to go to upper-level schools, which resulted in them not being able to get jobs. Women not in the workforce led to a decline in economic growth for America. Other nations such as China and Europe began surpassing them in trade. The reason for the decline in trade is because America was not as advanced as other countries, because they didn't have the technology and science development. Lastly, the wage gap continued to widen due to women not being able to receive an education and participate in the workplace. Global impacts of women not receiving the right to vote included a high world population because women weren't given reproduction rights. It would also make the world more vulnerable. Movements for freedom in other nations were unlikely because the world saw how the U.S., a major world power, reacted and then fell apart. In the 1950s, women continued to be oppressed and treated unequally as the United States deteriorates rapidly in the global standings as well as a nation. The economy suffers because no countries want to trade with them, and the U.S. doesn't have the manpower to continue sailing across the sea to trade. U.S. technology is way behind the rest of the world, and it results in the U.S. not having a ton of power. 1970 to 1985 was a big time for women's history and rights. During the 1970s, women began to gain a leadership again through the Women's Rights Organization and wanted to try and win the right to vote. They made their case through peaceful protests inspired by Gandhi and his fight for independence against the British. In 1985, the U.S. government finally grants women the right to vote. Throughout the first decade of women receiving the right to vote, they still faced unequal treatment from men, a patriarchal society, and it was still extremely hard to get a high-level education. However, African American women won the right to vote in the 2000s. Gradually, women began to earn some respect as they decreased the wage gap, brought new ideas and inventions to the workplace, receiving higher educations that allowed them to hold positions, and showing men that their lives don't only belong in the household. By 2010, most men have accepted women as an equal. However, some men still believe that they are the dominant gender and that women should never have been given the right to vote.